My boyfriend Christoph, he's working on BIM like since 10 years ago, and in that moment, everyone thinks he was crazy, and it's a challenge. Yes, he told me it's like I was the BIM crazy guy.
The InfraPioneer Podcast, Infrastructure Construction, from the perspective of BIM specialists and on-site engineers.
Welcome everyone to listen InfraPioneer's podcast with Mariana Loeza from Mexico. Thank you so much for being here. Could you more explain your backgrounds and stuff for the listeners?
Thank you, Jero, for your invitation. It's an honor for me being here with everyone. I'm an architect. I'm 24 years old. I'm living in Cancun. So here sorry if my English is not perfect. I have a business where we have an Autodesk Training Center, Autodesk academic partner, and we are certified academic Autodesk. So we also do projects on BIM, and I'm teaching in a university. About me, I love technology, but it's something recent, I can say, because when I was in college, I didn't know anything about BIM, and it was like 3 years ago. So it's important to know that in Mexico, almost all the universities, they don't are teaching BIM. They don't know what it is. I know this years later because of my boyfriend. He teach me all this BIM thing. So this is a little bit about me.
That's great. How did you, with your boyfriend, he was in the also architecture, or how did you start learning BIM then? Like, what was your first touch with building information modeling?
Yes, he's also an architect and he's a technology freak, so he loves all about BIM. So I can say he teach me a lot of things about it, and he inspired me, so I started learning by myself, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's a huge learning curve to take on. Like when you have learned all the how to say the normal basic way of doing architecture or construction designing or the construction itself, and then the BIM comes and it changes the dynamics all completely. It's
yes, I don't feel at all as an expert, I can tell you, but I try to learn everything I can, so I can teach it to my I'm a teacher, so my work is to let the boys and the girls open their minds about what is outside the school. Then we don't have the time on classes to teach them everything about BIM. I teach them AutoCAD, Formit, Sketchbook, Revit, but it's like one class to a week, 3 hours a week. So
yeah.
it definitely I don't have the time. It's a lot to teach, no?
Yeah, it's and also like for BIM, what I have seen is that even though there's a lot of different tools and technologies, and there's the imagination is your limit, what you can do with the BIM, I still find it like maybe 80-90% more of a social challenge to learn the BIM than the technical part of these tools, because especially like for me in construction, it's such a difficult because it's a completely different world, and then you are trying to convince the foremen and everyone that hey, we have this digital copy and we can benefit it, we can visualize it, we can see how it construction is progressing, and all these same things that you are seeing on the site, and then we can get more, like, how to say, get the work much more easier and clear for each individual. But it's like more social problem that you need to go to the process and see that how it all happens.
Yes, what we are almost doing in Cancun is bringing here people and experts who can talk about BIM. What is that? A lot of the lot of people don't know. They think BIM is Revit, and it's wrong. Yes, it's really normal here. They think this. So we are making a hard work trying to bring people of other countries or of another cities that can talk about it, what is happening in Mexico and outside of Mexico. We are in a touristic zone, so there's a lot of construction here. People around the world come here and build big hotels, big malls, and I think it's a challenge because they know another technologies. They are more advanced in what construction is doing now, and it makes that I have my construction. So I bring the people from another countries. Spain. Spanish people is a lot here. And what is happening is that the Mexican or the Cancun people is not having the work because they don't have the enough knowledge to be I forgot the word and to be competitive with them. So this I think is a hard challenge to embrace.
Yeah, it's like in Finland as well. It's like clear. You can clearly see that for basic like infrastructure projects, there isn't any more excavators without machine guidance systems. Like everything is model-based production. Most commonly, if we are not talking about small like individual homeowners, parks, and their gardens, but it's really has changed the game, and you either like have to adapt as fast as possible, or then it will become much more harder to win those projects.
Yes.
Please, you were saying. Sorry to interrupt. By the way, in Mexico, you said that you are now getting more involved with BIM. Is it more like in the architecture and construction design phases, like using these Revits and other softwares to make those models, or how is it, like how far the English word was, like BIM? I can't remember, like how involved the BIM is in those processes nowadays in Mexico.
I think we are so far, if we compare Mexico and especially Cancun to another cities. I have to say we are good if we compare with another cities from Mexico, because we travel from Mexico with different cities, and we talk about BIM and they don't know anything, really anything. And we are like, how is this possible? But in Mexico City and Monterrey, I think they are the two cities that are more advanced with this methodology. Cancun, I think it will be the 2 or 3 place with this knowledge. But Mexico in general have a lot to learn, a lot to share, and I love to maybe copy from another countries, and we don't have like an allowed a ISO, the normal.
You mean the standardization, or?
Yes, we don't have the a regulation. We don't have the obligation of making things on BIM like another countries. It's not something obligatory because we don't have something that regulates this, and we don't have a document that say you lot 100 is this, lot 200 is this, and everyone do what they think they are, and it's a big problem because we don't have a manual or something that tells you here says how things have to be done. So it's a problem because everyone do whatever they want or whatever they think it has to be. We are doing this, or we read, we investigate, but it's like I think it should be there, and I'm going to do it like this, but it's not something certain.
And it's like really long period of like development to build these standardizations and get them like involved, because like, well, we have the, of course, government officials who can either allow and push forward this BIM utilization in design and architecture and in construction, but then also we need the standardization that should determine how it's structured. So we would have this ideal picture that when architecture makes the building and it goes construction design, then they will instantly can read all the files and designs and make their additions there. And when it goes to the construction, then it would be clear for them as well. And that's what I also have seen, like even in Finland, we have this kind of standardization, but it's mostly like for really huge projects. We have this government level of standardization. Then each individual municipality have their own standardizations. So there's like multiple different things. And then it happens that when we receive construction designs to the project, then it's always a bit different, and some are BIM and some are just PDFs, and then you are like having be like a spy that you are looking for 5 different places, so the information gathering that you yourself can make those BIM models for machines and foremen and everyone else. And it's a bit troublesome, but of course it's really hard to like get this kind of like global standardization because the requirements are so huge. Everyone has their own 5 cents to give it to that project, and that's why like the building smart is, by the way, quick question about building smart, is it in Mexico as well, like this kind of building smart organization? They have
we have it in Mexico.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear you so well.
Yes. So basically, there's, at least in Europe, there's this kind of a community called Building Smart. And
yes, I know it.
Yeah. So basically, it's each individual country, they are developing the standardizations and other guidelines. They have also a place in Mexico.
I haven't read about it in Mexico. I've read the general building smart, but I think here we don't have it. Here is just one standardization. It's a certification. Sorry, it's by the USA. It's the Associated General Construction. And they come once a year to capacitate, to teach about how BIM should be, but not just not by the software, the methodology, how you have to do your process and take BIM, not just the project, as you say, if all the life of the project. It happens here, as you say, they don't want to share the information. And you're the architect, and I'm the engineer, and I do the net thing. So it's a problem because they don't want to share. Yeah, but it's good to hear that it not only happens in Mexico. So maybe it's a global problem that we face.
Yeah, I think it's something like from the old culture of when you create this kind of like company's secret that how we utilize the BIM, we don't want to share it forward and get the competition on the same level as we are. But I think in the end, like we live in the digital age, like internet is open, so anyone can improve and learn. And I think it's more of like that closed ecosystem mentality that some of us still practice.
Yes, it's hard to change an old mind, but we are doing our best, and I think our generation is making these things better, and maybe we can have a good future about this. It's our work to share what we know, what we don't know, maybe to ask and others can that he maybe it's like you no you are sharing with me, I'm sharing with you, and I think this is important because we are knowing what's happening in another continent, so
Exactly.
it's good to be here and sharing these experiences.
By the way, the BIM implementation in Mexico, especially like in Cancun and your projects, what are like the, if we are not talking about the standardizations and those stuff, what are the most critical like challenges that you are facing to get the BIM implemented on the all phases of all, was it then the buildings or infrastructure?
I think our best challenge has been that people think it's just a capacitation of 10 hours. I'm going and teach you Revit, like, oh, here's how to make a wall, your floor, and it's everything. And they don't understand that we have to know and to learn about what are we doing, what are, sorry, they doing with their process to improve this and have the better solutions. They don't understand that it's a process, and it's a process to, that will take time. We can do it. We can do this in 1 month, and they want to fast and cheap. So I
Yeah,
think this is
yeah.
the biggest challenge we face in Cancun.
That's yeah, that's almost everywhere. Like I think it's the big challenge, at least here in Finland as well, is that to influence the like government and municipality officials to really understand that we should more invest on the design to an architecture that the BIM stands. The quality is as good as possible, because when we go to the construction or property management and maintenance, then the mistakes are already done and we don't have any information, or it's very mixed up, and then again we are paying that mistake much more in the maintenance or in the construction than if we would just invest more on the design phase. And
Exactly. I
it's
can
a bit,
tell you, I sorry, I can tell you that some government dependencies are getting to us and asking for help, and this is good because government, locally government, but it's governing at least, and it's taking conscience about what they can do, why they or what they should do about it. And they have a problem that is they don't have the people to make the projects, so the money is going, and they have the resources, but they to bring it and do it, they have to they have to have the project done. So they send how many will cost, but they don't have the people, and they are doing it with AutoCAD. So it's take a lot of time, and it's like we can do 10 projects for the city, and we do one because we don't have the people, we don't have the resources. It's a shame. It's a shame that this is happening, but I think they are waking up, and I think it will be better.
yeah, yeah. There was a really funny saying for the issue there, like in Finland. I heard someone said that there's a saying that "bim bam boom," and basically it's that we can do it the BIM, that we invest early to get it good on the whole way. And then when it goes to the construction, then it's BAM. It's some cost to make the fix the issue if it's even noticed. And then if it goes to the maintenance, then it's a boom and it's like big amount. It's kind of catchy click phrase to tell for the like municipality and government officials that hey, this kind of mentality to really get the whole circle as cost efficient for them as possible with the like building it once well and no need to worry so much. What kind of then actions in Mexico you have started to take to bring this BIM revolution more common in the like in design and on the construction? Like I heard you had training centers and a lot of things.
We are academic partners, Autodesk academic partners, so we are going to schools and teaching the students for free. And we are talking about what is BIM, what is important, really it's so basic. Today start knowing what is this, because they listen BIM, but what is that? So we are doing this from the schools, and we are teachers in some universities. The universities are better and not better. They know a lot more because we are there and we are, hey, do you remember what it's BIM? No, but in another schools where teachers don't know anything, we are going there and we are making information courses and something. And for the industry, the grown architects, we have something called Colegio de Arquitectos Cancun. Here we are participating at every once a month, and we are giving some information talks, and it's where we are bringing people from another places that they can talk about BIM. If you want to come to Cancun, you're so welcome.
Thank you.
We can go to the beach and talk about BIM with everyone else. So this is what we are doing. We are, the conferences are free. Thanks to the president of the architects, she is giving us a lot of support to do this. And I think we are one of the cities that it's like FECAR architects, because it's like an association from schools of architects from all Mexico. So we go every 3 weeks to different cities, and then this is a regional meeting, but we have national meetings. So this is important because we meet people from another cities, and we talk. We are like, hi, do you know what is BIM? No, I'm going to explain you. And we talk, and it has been working because we make friends, and they are like, okay, come to my city and talk about it. And wow. This is what are we doing.
That's really cool. Like, especially that you got so much support to bring this message forward and make the change. It's amazing to hear that there's such an initiative done in Mexico.
It's going to be easy. I have to say it. It's something, look at us like we're crazy people. And what are you talking about? I'm good with which I'm using AutoCAD, and this is perfect for me. But we are making the effort.
That's awesome. What kind of because like the transition is such a huge and a lot of new information, like how much do you then get how to say negative or change resistant responses, like people who don't want to change their own way of doing things?
I can say I'm recently on the BIM world, but I can tell you my boyfriend Christoph, he's working on BIM like since 10 years ago, and in that moment everyone thinks he was crazy, and it's a challenge. Yes, he told me it's like I was the BIM crazy guy on the Revit crazy because he learned alone with YouTube videos, and he sometimes he told me I learned in Russian how to do BIM, how to use Revit, sorry, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow the mouse. No, but I can say it was a challenge for him. Now we have support, but in those years it wasn't something that sounds close to happen. No, I can say now it's easier, but it's a challenge, and we have a lot of people that don't believe this is necessary or this is important, and it's difficult to change a mind that has a lot of years. You know that I think it happening everywhere, but we don't have. Well, we can't lose the sparkle to do this, and I think it will work.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What kind of tricks or ways to do to change that mentality have you found, like to support the people who are more resistant to adapt into the BIM methodology?
Um, we are giving them information like little pieces. Okay, here is it, and it will work for this. Okay, you got it. Good. This is it's like step
Yeah,
to
small
step
train.
with a lot of patience. In the Colegio de Arquitectos, we have a lot of grown people. So there is architects that they don't use AutoCAD. They are making pencil plans, and they have people who do it for them. But so if they don't use even AutoCAD, how do you want do they use BIM? It's really hard.
Yeah, yeah. I also learned like the giving grain at the one time and small pieces of achievement or victories. And then also I realized that it's always like, at least on the projects, I have seen that one of the working method is that first you of course educate and give them support, and maybe like 2 to 3 months you are there to help them. But then when you give them how to say, let them free into the BIM world, then they first might like struggle and make mistakes. But because of those mistakes, then they uh, learn and start utilizing it much more than what even I can teach them.
I think we are in a level where they are not exactly using it now. If I'm honest, I don't think they are using it, but they are knowing it, and it's a process, it's a slow process. We help in when I work, where I work, sorry, and we do implementations for BIM, and this is the moment where they really change the way they are working. But the tokens we do for them, I think it's more to open their minds to know there's something more or something else. And in this point, they are understanding and that if we don't do this and we approach it and we are losing work, that is what I'm talking in the beginning, that constructors of another countries are coming and they are understanding, but I don't think they are already using it in a really good way or complete way.
Yeah, and I mean the urgency is the best motivator for that, to really encourage people to dip their toes on the water and learn bit by bit. And I mean, I think it's like for anyone, it takes years to really learn all the current possibilities of BIM, and then of course future, the more and more, like each year there's comes so many new ideas what you can implement, but then you are also thinking like the people who just starting and the mountain is really high, so you are not cannot take them directly to the top of the mountain, so it's a process always. By the way, you spoke the really interesting project in Cancun, the touristic area. Could you elaborate that more about the BIM project?
We was collaborating with a project that it's called Shark Tower. It's a project from Mexicans, and it's in an important zone, a new zone from the city that it's called Puerto Cancun. And this building is interesting because the name says everything. Shark Tower. It's like this form, like the aleta, like a shark, and it's a building that it's every level. It's different than the other. So they came to us and say, "I can do this in CAD. Help me." And we make them for them a BIM execution plan, and we are helping them to build it. It's very interesting. I can send you some pics to
definitely
to you. I think this is the completest build that we have helped to improve in BIM. I can't tell you very certainly if all the hotels that they are building in the hotel zone are really doing this with BIM, because I haven't worked with them, to be honest. But I think it should be doing like this. I know by Twitter and some people, so a person who is working, it's from Spain, and he have worked here. And he told me like, I have some project here and we are doing by BIM, but I really didn't ask him what was, so this is what I can say.
What kind of did you set from when the project started some kind of like fundamental rules or standards or something that the all designs and architecture and other phases should aim to achieve in this project?
Well, we make the BIM execution plan, and we make a video where it shows how the building has to be constructed. So it was like level 1, level 2, and then it was making the form. And we give them a guide where we say, okay, you need, for example, your structure, you need it in lot 300. And what they do is go, and they do well, is with the contractors, they say, okay, I will contract you, but I need you to work in BIM. And they was like, okay, but I don't do it. You have two options. Do it in BIM or don't work for me. It is something important to the people who's doing the construction, because I can also share with you that we have a project where we do everything in the project. It was like map, structure, and architecture. Everything was in the model. And then it started the time of the construction, and the architect come to us and say they don't want to look at the model. I need the CAD. And we was like, you have everything here. It's just like one click and you have all the information. And then the start with, okay, here, there's your CAD. But then it's like, okay, I need it faster. I will not longer this history. And we have the model in our office, and they are not using it because they are using CAD. This talks about what is the importance of the contractist works on BIM, because architects, we are doing this in the right way maybe, and they don't want it. I think it's the hardest thing to approach in this movement to BIM.
Yeah, and I think
It's an experience.
yeah, and also like old habits die really slow, and it's all like I think the construction itself really requires the tools to benefit from BIM. Like for example, all the bridge projects, the Trimble Connect, like this kind of like viewing software where you can put your EFC or the models into there, and then you can view them. You can then paint them or take pictures and make tasks. But this kind of like tools and teaching this each new tool that hey, you need to learn to use this, and there's a lot of different buttons and things to do. So it's always a struggle, because then in the construction they have timelines and everything, and everyone is really busy. It's always really hard to like push them. They would need always like if they are new to BIM, they need this kind of like support person on site to teach them and how they can utilize this kind of features when we have BIM models. And it's it's a struggle that I also have every time, like when the new project starts. I'm still looking for that one single answer how to get them done easily, but it's always a struggle. It's a change.
It happened to us. It happened to us, and then a few days later, there comes an architect and told, "Oh, we have this project in Tulum," and we was like, "Okay, your contractist will work in BIM, because if they don't, we don't want to work, because it was a really bad experience to all of the work we do. It's like in trash. It's not
Yeah.
working."
Yeah, and I mean it's I think it really requires the property owners big reinforcement that you need to utilize the BIM, because then for example, if we get the architecture and design to do all the design elements on BIM, and then it goes to the construction, and if the rule is not enforced, then what is left after the construction is a lot of like points in a space, and then there's like PDF drawings, and then it's like, okay, now what's the BIM? Like this amount of information is not enough for like property management and like smarter buildings that you can benefit from. So it's a struggle, and it really requires like to teach the client that he needs to reinforce these kind of set of rules, because otherwise it's never going to happen, or then it might happen, but then the construction company has to be really well versed with the BIM.
Yes, I think it's all work and to teach to the new generations to not make these mistakes, and to understand that collaboration is important and shared information is important, and working on teams. Oh, sorry, it's really important to make really good results.
Yeah, true. By the way, if you would have to give advices for anyone who is listening and is not so haven't learned the BIM, what would your advice be to get started with BIM and start thinking what he could benefit from BIM in his own work?
I think the first is to don't be afraid, because you will see a lot of information, and maybe you will be like, oh my god, I can't, I won't do this, I can't, but you can't. It's something that may have, and you have to be patient, to be a study person, and it's important to talk to people from another places that they can they can share the experience with you, and everything has something to say, and it's important to listen very well, and where there was their mistakes is what they do good, and never start reading. And we have internet, so you have information on your hand. It's just like um, dedicate 5 minutes to learn about it, and unless be on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. We have the internet, so I think it's you have to want to do it, to believe in this process, and you will get it.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like I sometimes I feel the information is so much in the internet, like you could read for years in the just about BIM, and also like really trying to find the one task you are doing, and then think how you could do this with BIM. Just trying to find the opportunities because there's so many different ways and a lot of
I
information.
I think we have to understand that the model is what they have all the information. So, because one of the currently problems I have seen is that we believe one thing is the model and one thing is the construction, and we need to see it as one only thing that grows together, and the function have to we have to build twice, one in real life and one in our computers. I think when we understand this, we do a better model with a lot of more information that will help us to all the details we need on the construction.
Yeah, yeah, the digital twin mindset is really amazing. I'm really looking forward to when we have cities with all this valuable information on what comes from design and construction and during maintenance. I think it would be a really cool. I'm just like really at least in Finland we have really big issues with like property management tools that we have like BIM in architecture and in design and then in construction, and then we have this really valuable and cool information that there's so much data how it is built and what kind of elements there is and when it's placed and a lot of things. But then when it goes to the property management, then it's like could we have a PDFs and CAD pictures that it's just like really weird because now it's like when you speak about you make the designs and then construction is what is we have then that we have a construction, but then again next phase is like, oh well, we have always done with the Excel and everything basic like words and but I guess it's a process, it's a ongoing development. By the way, just out of curiosity, in Mexico and in BIM sector, what would be things that you would want to be improved in the next year or so?
I think it's important the standardization, maybe not that specific, but maybe a general standardization which says to serve like a guide to help us to don't do whatever we want. We are doing what we understand it's the good and the right things, but maybe it's not. So, for example, if I'm working with two constructors, and for one the lot is something, and for the other it's another thing, we have a problem because it could make a fight to okay, I'm right, I'm not right, and I think this is the first step we should be knowing. The government has like a team, I can say it, that's working about it, but I think it's so slow and there is not like official yet. And they have meetings where we talk like, okay, how BIM has to be. And they are giving their best advices, but it's not something that's really happening right now. I think maybe in Mexico, it will take like 5 years to have some standardization. I don't know. This is my approach.
Yeah, no, I mean the Building Smart Finland standardizations are free in the internet. I really recommend like just downloading them and then going to show that hey, how about this is the like start block, and then we start like thinking on the on your perspective that in Mexico, that what more information or guidelines you would need to get the best result as possible.
I'm agree with that. Yes.
Great.
Yes, I think we have to learn from another countries like Finland, Spain, and USA. They are, I think they are, you are countries that are working well as you can.
Yeah, there's, I mean, especially like UK and Spain, they are really good benchmarking places because it's, I think the BIM in those countries is utilized really well, and US as well. It's amazing. But great.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you so much for calling. It was really, really insightful to hear how it's going.
Thank you for the invitation. You have your home here in Mexico, wherever you want to come. You are so welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for. See you soon.
Have a good Saturday.
Thank you for listening to the Infrastructure Pioneer Podcast. Infrastructure construction from the perspective of BIM specialists and on-site engineers. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, and we'll see you next time.